When Donald Trump steps onto the stage of the Vanessa Cross Show, the audience is abuzz with anticipation. They expect yet another bold, unfiltered conversation, one filled with confidence, controversy, and unmistakable showmanship. But tonight, the usual spectacle may take an unexpected turn. Vanessa Cross, a no-nonsense journalist with a reputation for her razor-sharp interviews, isn't here to offer an easy conversation. She doesn't intend to flatter or indulge in pleasantries. She wants to push, to probe, to challenge, to strip away the bravado and uncover something raw. But from the moment Trump takes his seat, there's a shift in the air. A tension, an energy that lingers beneath the surface. Vanessa, sitting opposite him, clutches her stack of question cards with a determined grip, her smile confident, almost smug. She believes she has the upper hand. What she doesn't realize is that within minutes, it will be her who is left speechless. What Trump is about to say will change everything. No one in the audience will ever forget this night. The studio is packed, the air electric with excitement. Bright stage lights beam down, illuminating the massive backdrop emblazoned with the Vanessa Cross Show in sleek lettering. The audience murmurs in anticipation, some holding up signs that read, "Trump 2024, Make America Great Again," or simply "The Boss," while others sit with skeptical expressions, waiting to see what will unfold. Behind the scenes, producers signal to the camera crew. A silent countdown flashes on the monitors. The moment everyone has been waiting for is about to begin. Then, he appears. Donald J. Trump strides onto the stage with signature confidence, his steps deliberate, his presence unmistakable. There is no mistaking his aura. He is a man who commands attention the moment he enters a room. Dressed in a sharp navy suit, a crisp white shirt, and a bold red tie, he looks every bit the figure of power and determination. His unmistakable golden hair is perfectly in place, and his expression, though familiar, carries an air of unpredictability. The audience reacts immediately. Half of them erupt into applause and cheers, while the other half remains reserved, watching intently. Some people chant his name, others simply observe, waiting. But regardless of where they stand, there is no denying his magnetism. Trump raises a hand in his signature wave, flashing a confident smirk as he takes his seat. He leans back, relaxed yet commanding, his presence filling the space. Across from him, Vanessa Cross sits upright, her body language controlled and assertive. A well-respected journalist, she has built a career on pushing boundaries, on exposing inconsistencies and challenging power figures. She is not here to exchange pleasantries. She is here to test him. Dressed in an elegant blazer, her posture stiff with precision, she studies Trump with a piercing gaze. She holds her cue cards tightly, flipping through them as if mentally preparing for battle. Her lips curve into a half smile, a blend of professionalism and challenge. Finally, she leans slightly forward. Her voice, calculated and deliberate, slices through the studio's silence. "Mr. Trump, you have wealth, power, influence. You have lived a life of luxury that most people can only dream of. And yet, you claim to be a man of the people, a fighter for the working class. Some would argue that's a contradiction. Do you truly believe you represent the average American?" A hush falls over the studio. The question lingers in the air, its weight heavy with implication. Some in the audience nod in agreement with Vanessa's challenge, while others narrow their eyes, waiting for his response. But Trump does not hesitate. He leans forward slightly, his expression unwavering, his confidence unshaken. The familiar cadence of his voice fills the room as he responds, direct, bold, unapologetic. What he says next will stun the room, dominate the headlines, and leave even Vanessa Cross struggling to respond. Donald Trump lifts his eyes to Vanessa, a small smirk playing at the corners of his lips. He leans back slightly in his chair, exuding the confidence that has defined his public persona for decades. "Vanessa, have you ever thought about how many people feel ignored every single day?" The studio falls into a sudden hush. A subtle shift ripples through the audience. Some people straighten in their seats, others exchange glances. Even those who had expected a typical, bombastic Trump response seem caught off guard by the simplicity of his words. Vanessa Cross raises an eyebrow, momentarily surprised at how effortlessly Trump has sidestepped her provocation while maintaining his composure. But she is far from satisfied. She tightens her grip on her cue cards, a gleam of determination in her eyes. She isn't here to let him control the narrative. This is her show, and she intends to push him further than he has ever been pushed before. Leaning in slightly, she flips to her next card, fingers tapping lightly against the table. This is the moment she has been waiting for. The moment she will finally break through the unwavering confidence, the carefully constructed image. But Vanessa isn't done yet. She has a much crueler question prepared. One designed to dig deep, to force him into a moment of raw vulnerability. The energy in the studio, once lively and electric, now hangs heavy in the air. Trump's last response had an unexpected effect. Some audience members shift uncomfortably, while others clasp their hands together, contemplating the words they just heard. But Vanessa Cross is relentless. She crosses her legs, adjusting her posture with calculated elegance. A small smile plays on her lips, but her eyes remain sharp, unwavering, almost merciless. The tension in the room is palpable. She casually tosses the next question card onto the table, letting the suspense hang for just a moment longer. Then, without hesitation, she delivers her blow. Mr. Trump, you've been through multiple bankruptcies, public scandals, lawsuits, and more criticism than any leader in modern history. You've lost close friends, faced betrayal, and watched people turn against you. Doesn't that destroy you? Doesn't that make you question if, in the end, all of this is just pain? The impact is immediate. A hushed gasp spreads through the audience. Some people shift uncomfortably in their seats. A woman in the front row covers her mouth, visibly stunned by the brutal nature of the question. Others furrow their brows, uncomfortable with Vanessa's direct and unfiltered approach. The cameras zoom in on Trump's face, capturing every detail, the slight furrow of his brow, the brief stillness in his expression. For the first time since the interview began, he does not immediately respond. He lowers his head slightly, fingers interlacing over his lap. A long pause stretches across the room. It is a rare moment, one where the weight of the question seems to settle on even the most powerful of figures. The audience holds its breath. Vanessa leans in, watching, waiting for a flicker of hesitation, a crack in the foundation of the man who has built his career on unshakable confidence. And then, Trump lifts his gaze. He exhales slowly, his voice steady, but with an undeniable depth behind it. Pain never destroyed me. It fueled me. Every loss, every betrayal, every attack taught me something. It taught me that success is about resilience. That the moment you stop fighting, you lose. And most importantly, it taught me that the world doesn't reward victims. It rewards those who refuse to quit. The studio is utterly silent. The weight of his words hangs in the air. Even those who may not support him can feel the raw conviction behind them. A few members of the audience blink rapidly, their eyes glistening with unshed tears. A woman discreetly dabs at her face with a tissue. Even those unfamiliar with his personal struggles can recognize the truth in what he has just said. The camera pans to Vanessa Cross for the first time since she posed the question. For a brief second, the sharpness in her expression falters. Her trademark smirk fades, replaced by something else. A flicker of surprise. Perhaps, even, a moment of regret. But Vanessa Cross is not one to back down. She straightens her shoulders, her posture shifting back into controlled precision. Her fingers glide over the remaining cue cards, her next move already in play. She still has one final trick up her sleeve, one final question, meticulously crafted to corner him in a way he won't expect. And this time, she intends to strike where it will hurt the most. Irrelevant to politics or the business world, the studio still feels the weight of what just happened. The audience is quieter now, some still absorbing Trump's words, while others shift in their seats, uncertain of how to process the moment. But Vanessa Cross has no intention of slowing down. She straightens her shoulders, masking any trace of unease behind a composed, practiced smile. She slowly flips through the stack of question cards in her hand, appearing as though she is carefully selecting her next move. But in reality, she already knows exactly what she's about to ask. She leans in slightly, her sharp eyes narrowing like a predator about to strike. Her tone is different now, less aggressive, more calculated. A question carefully designed to be a trap. Mr. Trump, you're in your late 70s now. The world is changing. Many believe that leaders like you, men of your generation, are no longer relevant. Don't you fear being left behind? The audience reacts immediately. Some gasp, whispering among themselves. Others frown, clearly uncomfortable with the bluntness of the question. The camera zooms in on Trump, waiting for his reaction. But he doesn't respond immediately. Instead, he pauses. His fingers gently tap against the table, a sign of deep thought. His gaze drifts for a brief moment, not out of hesitation, but as if he is traveling somewhere distant, to a place only he understands. Vanessa notices the pause, and smiles inwardly. This is it. The moment she has been waiting for. The moment she will finally see a crack in his legendary confidence. And then, Trump lifts his gaze. His expression remains calm, but there is a weight behind his eyes that no one expected. His voice, when he speaks, is steady. Vanessa, have you ever seen a skyscraper? The journalist blinks, momentarily caught off guard. The audience murmurs, puzzled by the unexpected response. Trump continues, his voice steady but filled with meaning. A skyscraper stands tall, unshaken by the years. People walk past it every day. Some admire it, some ignore it, but it doesn't matter, because it remains standing, strong as ever. The world changes around it, but it doesn't crumble. Now, tell me, do you think anyone calls it irrelevant? The studio erupts into applause. Shouts of support echo through the room. Some members of the audience nod in approval, while others, even those who don't typically support him, find themselves unable to deny the power of his words. Vanessa is frozen. For the first time, she loses complete control of the interview. Her expression shifts. The rehearsed smile fades, replaced by something unreadable, surprise, and perhaps even a flicker of respect. Trump didn't attack her. He didn't retaliate with anger or dismiss her question outright. Instead, he turned it back on her, offering a response so undeniable that, for a moment, the entire structure of the interview seems to collapse. Vanessa takes a deep breath, trying to regain control. She glances at the remaining cue cards in her hand and realizes she needs a different approach. Her plan to unsettle Trump isn't working the way she expected. But there is still a way. If he doesn't fear irrelevance, maybe she can touch on something even deeper. Something that even his confidence can't easily brush aside. Her next move will target his past. She can feel control slipping from her grasp, and it frustrates her. Her show isn't known for inspiring moments. It's known for pushing celebrities and leaders into a corner, making them uncomfortable. She needs to regain control. So she decides to go deeper. She picks up the next question card, holding it between her fingers for a few seconds, as if weighing her words. But deep down, she already knows exactly what she wants to say. Leaning forward slightly, she fires the next shot. Mr. Trump, people have criticized you for decades. For your upbringing, your wealth, your success. Some say you were born into privilege and never had to fight for anything. Others argue that everything you have is the result of luck, not hard work. Tell me, do you ever feel like your entire life has been built on something you didn't truly earn? The audience gasps. The question lands like a thunderclap. It is a direct attack, not just on his career, but on his entire identity. The cameras zoom in. The world waits. For the first time, Donald Trump does not move. The energy in the room is charged, electric. And then, he speaks? His voice is lower this time, but it holds a weight, a challenge of its own. Vanessa, let me tell you something. You don't build skyscrapers by accident. You don't become the president of the United States because of luck. And you sure as hell don't get to where I am without fighting for every single inch. People can say what they want, but the truth is simple. I earned everything. And that's why I'm still here. The studio explodes. Some people cheer. Others shake their heads, stunned. A few remain silent, processing the moment. But one thing is certain, Vanessa Cross has lost control, and Trump knows it. He leans back in his chair, offering the smallest of smiles, as if to say, nice try, Vanessa, but you'll have to do better than that. And for the first time since the interview began, Vanessa doesn't know what to say. Vanessa's voice is firm, but there's a cold edge to it. Mr. Trump, you grew up under the shadow of an ambitious father. Your success is often credited to him, not to you. Have you ever felt angry about that? The impact is immediate. The audience shifts uncomfortably, realizing Vanessa has just struck at one of the deepest aspects of Trump's legacy. His relationship with his father, a man who was both a mentor and an overwhelming presence in his life. Some members of the audience glance at one another, sensing the personal nature of the question. Others sit in silence, waiting. But Trump does not react with anger. There is no flinch, no flash of irritation, only a pause. He expected this attack. He takes a slow breath, his fingers tapping lightly against the table, before shifting his gaze, not to Vanessa, but beyond her, as if looking into the past itself. After a moment, he offers a small, thoughtful smirk. My father taught me something valuable. Vanessa blinks, slightly thrown off. This was not the response she was expecting. Trump then leans forward, locking eyes with her, his voice calm but carrying the unmistakable weight of experience. He showed me exactly the kind of man I didn't want to become. The words land like a shockwave. The audience stills. The energy in the room shifts. Trump continues. And my mother? She taught me how to survive. A hush sweeps over the studio. Somewhere in the crowd, a woman exhales shakily, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. A few audience members exchange glances, moved not just by his words, but by the sheer simplicity and depth of their meaning. For the first time, Vanessa hesitates. This interview was supposed to be a power play, a carefully orchestrated takedown in which she dictated the rhythm, forced her subject into corners, and left them scrambling for answers. But Trump? He refuses to play her game. He doesn't lash out. He doesn't defend himself. Instead, he takes every sharp-edged question and turns it into a moment of reflection, one that leaves the audience watching in silent awe. For a fleeting second, Vanessa doesn't know what to say. She flips through her cards again, her fingers gliding over the paper as she searches for her next move. But deep down, she already knows. Her previous strategies aren't working, but she still has one final card to play. This time, when she looks at Trump, her expression is different. The sarcasm, the calculated smirk, it's all gone. There's something else now. Something darker. If touching on his past wasn't enough, then there might be only one thing that can truly shake him, the fear of his own mortality. The studio is electric, charged with an unspoken energy that no one can quite describe. The audience is no longer just watching an interview. They are witnessing something else. Something deeper. Donald Trump has faced every question with unyielding confidence, turning even the sharpest inquiries into moments of power and defiance. But Vanessa Cross is not finished. Her mind races. Every calculated dig, every verbal trap, none of them have fazed him. She adjusts her blazer, pulling her shoulders back. She has built a career on breaking even the most composed guests, digging deeper, exposing vulnerabilities, pushing boundaries until there is nowhere left to run. And right now, sitting across from Trump, she feels something she has never felt before. Frustration. Not because he refuses to play her game, but because he keeps changing it altogether. Her previous tactics were designed to expose him, to strip away the myth surrounding his resilience, his confidence, his power. But instead, he has left her with more questions than answers. This is her last chance. She needs to take control. This time, there's no smirk. No performative charm. She leans forward, just slightly. The movement is calculated, deliberate. Her voice, when it comes, is quieter than before. But there is something else woven into it. Something colder. Mr. Trump, don't you feel fear? The question lands like a thunderclap. The audience freezes. The cameras zoom in. For the first time all night, Donald Trump does not move. The room is silent. No murmurs, no whispers, just the weight of the question hanging in the air, heavy, inescapable. For a few seconds, he simply stares at Vanessa. And then, he exhales slowly. When he speaks, his voice is even, controlled, but carrying an undeniable gravity. Vanessa, let me tell you something about fear. A pause. Then, I've faced more challenges, more attacks, and more pressure than most people could imagine. And I'm still here. The studio holds its breath. People who live in fear? They don't build empires. They don't change the world. And they sure as hell don't make history. The audience erupts. Some stand, clapping. Others remain stunned, unable to look away. Even Vanessa Cross, the woman who never loses control, finds herself momentarily speechless. And Trump knows it. He leans back, offering a knowing smile, as if to say, "Nice try, Vanessa. But you'll have to do better than that." And for the first time all night, Vanessa Cross has nothing left to say. The words hang between them, suspended in the charged silence of the studio. Time waits for no one. Have you ever thought about what will happen when your time comes? A collective hush falls over the room. This is different. This is no longer about politics, power, or legacy. This isn't about polls, approval ratings, or scandals. This is about something no one can escape. For the first time all night, Donald Trump does not answer right away. He doesn't smirk. He doesn't deflect. Instead, he takes a slow, deliberate breath. His expression remains unreadable, but the air around him shifts. The silence stretches. Vanessa holds her breath. The audience leans forward, waiting. And then, finally, he speaks. Vanessa, do you know the difference between fear and faith? Vanessa blinks. For the first time, she is caught off guard. Her lips pressed together, her mind racing. She had expected resistance. She had expected defensiveness. She had even expected a calculated media-trained response. She had not expected this. For the first time since the interview began, she does not have a quick rebuttal. Her gaze lowers to the question cards in her hands. She flips through them, searching for something, anything that might help her regain control. But suddenly, the words on the cards feel empty. Everything she had meticulously planned, the angles, the traps, the psychological warfare of journalism, none of it seems relevant anymore, because this isn't a battle. Trump has taken her carefully constructed chessboard and turned it into something else entirely. Something bigger. Something she wasn't prepared for. She thought she was conducting an interview. Instead, Trump has turned it into a conversation about life itself. And then, as she stares at her notes, she realizes something. There is one last question she needs to ask. Something deeper. Something final. She lifts her gaze. And when she speaks again, her voice is barely above a whisper. And what if no one remembers you when you're gone? The weight of the question hits the air like a stone sinking into deep water. The audience barely breathes. For the first time in the entire segment, Donald Trump does not immediately answer. The air in the studio feels heavier now. Vanessa's last question, delivered almost like a confession, lingers in the silence. What if no one remembers you when you're gone? It is the kind of question designed to unravel a person. To expose a hidden fear. To force them to face their own insignificance. But Trump does not flinch. Instead, he smiles softly. It's not a smirk. It's not the practiced smile of a politician. It's something else. Something deeper. He takes a breath. And when he speaks, his voice is as steady as ever. The question isn't whether they remember you. A pause. The question is whether they remember what you built. The words land like a declaration. Vanessa stills. The audience stares at him, some with wide eyes, others swallowing hard, absorbing the weight of his response. Because this is no longer about ego, no longer about controversy, fame, or power. This is about legacy. And Donald Trump knows legacy. He leans forward slightly, his gaze piercing. You see, Vanessa, names fade. Statues crumble, books gather dust. He gestures subtly, his voice unwavering. But what you build, the impact you leave, outlives you. That's why I never feared being forgotten. Because the things I've built, they'll stand long after I'm gone. A single clap echoes from the audience. Then another. And then, suddenly, the entire studio erupts. Some people stand, cheering. Others remain seated, staring in awe. Even Vanessa, for all her years of experience, finds herself speechless. She came into this interview believing she would control the narrative. But Donald Trump had done something she never expected. He redefined it. He turned every attack into a lesson. Every challenge into an opportunity to prove himself. And now, for the first time all night, Vanessa has no more questions. She looks at Trump, watching as he leans back, completely unshaken. And then, he speaks one last time. So no, Vanessa. I don't fear being forgotten. Because what I've built? A beat. That's never going away. The interview is over. The cameras slowly fade to black. But long after the lights dim, long after the applause settles, one thing is certain. No one will ever forget what just happened. The question isn't what they will remember about me. Donald Trump pauses, letting the weight of his words settle over the room. The question is, what will they remember about you? A visible shift ripples through the audience. Some people gasp softly. Others sit back, stunned by the unexpected turn. A few exchange glances, as if realizing that, for the first time, Vanessa is the one on the receiving end of the question. The camera zooms in on her face. Vanessa Cross. The woman who had built her career on tearing down public figures suddenly looks lost. Her lips part slightly, but she doesn't speak. Her fingers tighten around the cue cards in her lap. Yet, she doesn't glance down at them. Because for the first time in this interview, perhaps for the first time in a long time, she has no prepared answer. The silence stretches. And then, something no one expects happens. A single tear slips down Vanessa's cheek. She doesn't wipe it away. The camera catches everything. The way her throat moves as she swallows. The way her breathing shifts, as if something heavy has just settled inside her. Trump watches her. Not with triumph. Not with smugness. But with quiet understanding. Then, he stands. The studio is quieter now. The applause has faded. The excitement of the audience has been replaced by something else. Something deeper. People sit still, some wiping away lingering tears. Others are simply lost in thought. Vanessa Cross remains in her chair, unmoving. The cue cards, once her weapon, her shield, lie abandoned on the table before her. She no longer needs them. Or perhaps, for the first time, she realizes. She never really did. The cameras are still rolling. The world is still watching. But Vanessa is not thinking about the audience. She is not thinking about the ratings. She is not thinking about the headlines that will follow this interview. She is thinking about herself. The words echo in her mind. The question isn't what they will remember about me. The question is what will they remember about you. Her own reflection stares back at her from the glossy surface of the table. For years, she has built her career on sharp words, relentless questions, and an unwavering belief that exposing others made her powerful. Now, for the first time, she wonders, what will they remember about me? She looks up. Trump stands at the edge of the stage. The lights cast a soft glow around him, highlighting the stillness in his expression. He doesn't say another word. He simply offers her a small nod. Then, he turns and walks away. The screen fades to black. And then, a final message appears. Life is not about how long we live, but about the impact we leave behind. Soft music plays in the background, gentle, reflective. The video comes to an end. A few seconds pass. Then, across social media, across television screens, across conversations around the world, people talk. Not about the ratings. Not about the controversy, but about the question. The question that changed everything. What will they remember about you? In the end, life is not measured by wealth, fame, or accolades, but by the impact we leave behind. Donald Trump's final words in the interview were not just a response to Vanessa Cross. They were a universal truth that speaks to all of us, especially those who have lived long enough to understand that success is fleeting, but legacy endures. For many older adults, this message holds profound significance. As we age, we often reflect on what we have built, the people we have influenced, and the values we have upheld. It is easy to get caught up in external achievements, yet the real question remains. What will people remember about us? Will they remember a career, a title, a bank account? Or will they remember the kindness we showed, the wisdom we shared, and the lives we touched? This moment in the interview reminds us that true success is not about being remembered by everyone, but about being meaningful to someone. A legacy is built through the small moments, the lessons we pass down to our children, the friendships we cherish, the resilience we demonstrate in difficult times. No matter where we are in life, it is never too late to define our legacy. We don't have to be famous, powerful, or wealthy to make an impact. We simply have to live with purpose. Because in the end, the greatest measure of a life well lived is not how long we stayed in the spotlight, but how deeply we mattered to those who knew us.